Hey there, viewers! It's my book-to-movie comparison for the month, and it's a whole week before the month is over! I think I'm getting better at this. As always, this comparison contains spoilers for both the book and movie versions of Confessions of a Shopaholic. So, if you don't want to know quite yet what happens in the story, why don't you click on Bagheera up there to check out my list of other book-to-movie comparisons to see if there's one you do want to check out. And for those of you sticking around, let's get to it! Wow, I felt like a really cheesy car salesman right there. Sorry about that. This is, I think, one of the better book-to-movie adaptations I've seen. On first glance, it might seem there are vast differences between the book and movie versions, but you do have to remember that the movie is based off both Confessions of a Shopaholic and its sequel, Shopaholic Takes Manhattan, which I learned after the fact. I've only read Confessions myself, but I do now know the plot for Takes Manhattan, as that's the only way to truly do a book-to-movie comparison. For the script, they altered and completely changed a lot of scenarios. Hardly any scenes from the movie were actually in the book, and the storyline was not hindered by some blind attempt to keep the events identical in an effort to be true to the book. Staying true to the book, in my opinion, is not a matter of exact storylines and identical scenes, but it's a matter of character, portrayal, and maintaining the essence and ambiance of the book. And that they successfully did, which is the reason I think this is such a great adaptation. Most of the changes to the script, I believe, were for the better. For a movie version, it made for a shorter storyline, still with succinct hurdles and resolutions. Even the things I didn't think they needed to change for the script still worked for the story. First up is the shift in genre. While the book would be considered chick lit, the movie is definitely a romantic comedy. It's not a huge leap in genres, but there is one major difference. In romance, there is always a heroine and a hero. And considering Rebecca Bloomwood's romantic interest didn't have a constant presence throughout the book, he's more of a mysterious, tall, dark, handsome figure in the background, the changes to his character were inevitable. The books are much more Becky-focused, so by making Luke Brandon Becky's boss and editor, which really wasn't in the book, he was entirely more accessible throughout the film. You could feel the essence of the books oozing from this movie. Not only from the characters, but from references throughout. Characters from the book were kept, even though their roles and situations were changed drastically so that they would fit into the new storyline. For example, Alicia, in the book, worked for Luke at his company Brandon Communications, which in the film isn't formed until the end, but is also a blatant reference to the books. In the books, she is unfriendly towards Becky, and in the second book, Shopaholic Takes Manhattan, becomes an antagonist when she tries to take over Brandon's company. In the movie, she is instead hired for a position that Becky really wanted at a fashion magazine. She also begins to date Luke first when she realizes his mother is a famous socialite, and she sets Becky up for a hard fall with debt collector Derek Smith when she feels threatened by her. Alicia still fulfills the role of an antagonist and a competitor in the looks and proficiency department in both versions, but they each present it in the best way for their storyline. The alteration for Tarquin was much less crucial to the story. Instead of being Suze's cousin like he is in the books, he became her fiancé, which the wedding part plays a crucial role in the movie, but he actually doesn't have a huge role in the film. This change I thought was a little odd. I mean, cousin to fiancé. But the character's name was nothing more than a reference to the original story, and it just proves that this film had a guardian book slapper. The book focuses on many facets of Becky's character, her shopaholic tendencies, her major debt problems, but also the struggle of a job that she hates, and, later on, her frustration when she realizes that nobody actually takes her seriously. The movie chose mostly to focus on her shopaholic and debt problems. She lands a job at a financial paper, called Successful Savings in both versions, in an attempt to work her way up to a fashion magazine. Like in the book, she consciously knows very little about finance. But the movie chose to have her write out columns by comparing financial information in everyday terms of shopping mishaps, which did happen at least once in the book. She assumes the pseudonym of the girl in the green scarf, which is another wonderful allusion to the original story, because throughout the book, whenever Becky sees a particularly striking piece of clothing, she begins to envision herself as the girl in the white coat, or the girl in the gray cardigan. They used so many ideas from the book but just reworked them for the new storyline. Like Becky lying about finish on her resume and the mishap that follows, her suggestion that banks have January sales, and claiming Derek Smith is actually a stalker. I don't know why I did that, because apparently that's the international sign for a stalker. The movie also developed a unique way to depict Becky's shopaholic tendencies. They could have easily done a voiceover of Becky's thoughts, which would have been a really close representation considering that the book was told in the first person. However, they chose to use the mannequins as the manifestations of these thoughts. They call to her from the shop windows, they lure her into the shops, and convince her of all the reasons why she needs to buy something. Aside from the slightly creepy aspect of moving and talking mannequins, I felt it was a very clever way to convey this. I have to admit, I do prefer the ending from the book Confessions of a Shopaholic. The one in the film was actually taken from Shopaholic Takes Manhattan, and it's good, but I like the way that in Confessions, Becky comes to terms with her job and how she can actually enjoy it and be good at it if she would just try. However, a lot of this was conveyed throughout the movie, as her column on finance serves the same purpose as the big financial story she runs in the end of the first book. So while I preferred the book ending, the movies worked best for its storyline, and it still used the intended development of her character. Another thing I did prefer about the book was the character Derek Smith. In the book, a bank manager, and in the movie, a debt collector, he is hounding Becky about her unpaid bills. In the book, he is a frightening specter haunting Becky about her debt, but in the end, she realizes he isn't as frightening as he first seemed. He's quite human, and once she has the resolve to face the problem, he is kind and helpful. I enjoyed that theme in the book, that these huge, horrible things were happening to Becky, but when she finally resolved to deal with the problems, she realizes they weren't as utterly hopeless as she thought they were. In the movie, Derek Smith is a literal nightmare. He is an entertaining villain who gets what he deserves in the end. He is a conglomeration, I think, of two different characters, one from each book, and it still works excellently for the storyline, even though I prefer one above the other. I would definitely recommend both the book and the movie, though I would caution you that the book does contain quite a bit of swearing. Other than that, it's immensely entertaining. I will be featuring it probably next week in a new video series I'm calling Books Done Right. Yes, that's right as in right. It should be an interesting series, so I hope you guys will tune in to that video when I have it up and ready. Be sure to leave me some comments below if you have different opinions on the book versus the movie. I would love to hear what you think about it. Let me know if you have any suggestions of different book-to-movie comparisons that I can do. I can't promise that I will do them all, but I will definitely add them to my TBR list. So thanks for watching, and if you want to like and subscribe, you know where the buttons are.